Our first speaker for this morning, her name's Katrina Boyle. Now, I've actually studied with Katrina in a program called Black Belt with Taki Moore. Same as Grant, actually. That's how we all know each other. Now, Katrina's worked in some pretty extensive roles in HR, in management positions, I should say. So HR, marketing and sales. So in the corporate world, now she helps people. She empowers people. She helps people unlock what's happening mentally. She empowers them. She works with a lot of women to help empower women. Works with a lot of business people to actually find out what it is that triggers you for success. So just reading a bio here. So drawing on her academic qualifications in commerce and human resources, as well as her extensive experience as a business leader, Katrina is equipped with unique skills and expertise to coach clients and provide consulting services to almost every department within a company. So she's worked with some pretty fantastic companies as well, which I'm sure she'll share with you. She's a passionate coach, a keynote speaker, and really excited to have you on, Katrina. I hope there's no more glitches, but I can't promise anything. So if you could give a round of applause. If you could stand up and give a round of applause to Katrina, that'd be great.
Thanks, Stephen. Good morning, everybody. Well, thank you for having me. So as Stephen said, we've had our fair share of glitches this morning, and they're kindly sorting out a change of laptops as we change presentations today, just so that we can work around some of those challenges that we're having. Whilst they do that, as Stephen said, I work as an executive coach and change consultant. So I help people and organisations work through transformational change. And I do that by empowering them. And, empowering is such an overused word now. Lots of people talk about empowering people. And I guess the reason why I say that I empower people is that I do my best to teach you or coach you on as many of the tools that I can, but they're really practical tools so that you can actually take what I know is a lot of theory and research and turn it into something that you can actually apply to your everyday life, whether it be your personal life or your work life. So today I want to share lots of tools with you, and I was particularly excited when Stephen called me about this particular boot camp. And I know he said traditionally boot camps haven't been about mindset, and that, some people don't turn up when there's, when it's not about productivity. And interestingly, what I know about mindset is that some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today, there's actually research that shows that just the change in mindset and that ability to be resilient and mentally tough can increase your productivity and output by 25%. So all the people that, have decided to be here today, you've done exactly the right thing, because that change in mindset that you can learn from today, anything that you get out of today will increase your output, productivity, and your ability to achieve your goals. So when I looked at the advertising for today around Dare to Dream, the words that struck out to me, and Stephen was really passionate about this when he was on the phone to me, these words around resilience, strength, passion, courage, determination. I thought, I've got lots of tools that I can help people with to give them these particular skills. What I'd love to know, though, is I can teach you lots of things, but unless you feel like you really need them, then it's just going to be like an F-111, straight over your head. You're not going to take it in. So what I'd love you to do right now is just at your tables, have a think about those 5 traits or behaviours, and think about, if I was more resilient, if I was more courageous, if I was more passionate, more determined, how's that going to help me to achieve my goals this year, or my goals over the next 90 days? Okay, so if you just turn in your group of 3 or 4, have a conversation about those 5 areas. So it sounds like, based on the conversation, that you're feeling like some of these traits might be quite beneficial to you. I'd love to hear some of the things that you talked about. So why might being more determined, being more resilient actually help you in achieving your goals? Okay.
Start really passionate, start really determined, but then
to wane off a little bit. Yep, so to maintain the commitment right through. Okay? Strengthen your leadership skills. So how's that? Yeah, okay, so like role modelling that passion to them so that they're more passionate about what they're doing. Okay, thank you. And what about this table over here? Do you have something?
It is about keep going when things get tough or when something happens and it gets you down. It's about getting back up and
Trying something else. Yeah, it's like, you know, something gives you a bit of a setback, but get back up again and try again. Try something different. Take another route to get to the same outcome. Did you have something up the back that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I guess from my side of it, just when you're quoting a lot of jobs and you're getting the no's, you know, one after the other sort of thing, it's just that you're going to get a yes eventually, and you just to keep going until you get it. So
Yeah, it can be quite demoralising sometimes too, doesn't it? It's like, you know, so the continual no, you know, is quite demoralising. So it's how you actually keep yourself positive and maintain the confidence that what you're offering to people is the right offering, and believe in yourself continually. And what about over here? Oh, the pressure's on you.
I guess having the courage to try and try again.
Yeah.
Or to perhaps try something beyond what you have done in the past or beyond what you think you can do.
Yeah.
What
It does take a lot of courage. You know, interestingly for me, like a couple of years ago, as Stephen mentioned, I'd worked in the corporate world for about 20 years, and I'd worked in sales, marketing, HR, supply chain. So I'd had lots of experience, but I'd only ever worked in corporate. And I was in a situation where I was, you know, I work in change, so I've restructured a lot of teams and unfortunately over the years made a lot of people redundant. And I looked at my team. I had a large team of about 40 people, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, I could actually disband this whole team and put them into a number of different areas and effectively make my role redundant. And so I proposed that to the organisation, and that was a pretty courageous move because I knew that what it meant was that, one, they would want to redeploy me into another role because I knew that I was highly valued in the organisation. But what was really courageous about it was that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to put myself into an uncomfortable position. I realised that after 20 years of working in corporate, I wasn't actually learning anything new. So, you know, I stepped out of everything that I knew and moved into having my own business and taking, yes, all of the skills that I had. I knew that I had lots of experience and skills that I could leverage from that experience. But I took all of that, and that helped me to be a lot more courageous in making the decision that I did. So today I'm going to talk to you a lot about some of the things that you just said then around having confidence and courage and being committed. So the reason why these skills are really important is that, look, life, what did they say in that movie? Life is not a box of chocolates. Well, look, we'd love it to be that way, and sometimes, you know, with a bit of positivity, we can start to think that life is more like a box of chocolates, but unfortunately sometimes it's not, and that we are presented with challenges, and those challenges can be quite overwhelming. And that, you know, it's tough when you get a setback to, you know, get back up again. Like you said, you know, to get back up again, to hear those no's when you're quoting on a job and want to get back in and go, okay, I'm going to give it another try. And sometimes, particularly when you're in your own business, you feel like you're on your own. I know for myself, when I moved out of a corporate environment into having my own business, that was one of the things that I missed the most was, you know, having people that I could just bounce ideas off and go, what do you think about this? And, you know, when I was first in business, I was just working on my own. Fortunately, now I have a team of people. But, you know, you're very much on your own and you have to work out how to overcome your own challenges. So what I want to help you with today is how to recognise that the strength is actually within you. So all of the things that you talked about around courage and commitment and confidence, that strength is all within you to tap into. You can actually, if you use the tools that I'm going to share with you today, even 2 or 3 of them, and I'm going to share a bunch of them with you, if you use just 2 or 3 of them, you can really increase your ability to achieve your goals. And prevent things getting in your way. So challenges are always going to get in your way, but how do we navigate our way around them? Okay, so not let them actually stop you in your tracks. So I'm going to give you some practical tools to help build what I call your inner power. So before we do that, I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation around inner power. I was going to show you a video. Here you go. So what did you notice about that video? Because those guys look pretty powerful to me. What did you notice? Uh-huh. Yep. Before they did the whacking, they were really focused. Yep. What else did you notice? Yeah, different levels of success. There was one guy that cracked all the way through, then there was others that, you know, there was 8 or 10 of them. What else did you notice? Was there anything different about each of those people? Like physically different about them? Did they look... They had different styles? Okay, what was different about their style? Ah. Right, so they had kind of different rituals around how they actually got themselves ready for that particular punch. I think one of the things that I noticed was that physically though, they weren't very different. Did you notice that? Like they're all about the same build. So I started to think to myself, what's different about these guys? If it's not physical, it's mental. So what they do is they tap into their mental energy and their mental toughness to be able to get themselves to be able to be stronger than the other person. You know, there's only so much you can do with your physical body to make it stronger and be able to do something like that. So they do a lot of, so they have those rituals where they, you know, each have a different way of lining themselves up, and that gets them mentally prepared for what they do. There was one guy that kind of walked up and he stood there and stared at it for a moment before he actually then lined himself up. So they each had their own kind of mental preparation to get themselves into the right headspace to do what they had to do. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, is mental toughness. So mental toughness is, there's a new school of thought around the ability of the mind to be able to overcome challenges and stress and pressure. And it's all about tapping into the internal mental, the toughness of your mind. So today I heard Stephen talk about resilience, and resilience was one of those 5 things that were underneath the Dare to Dream marketing, underneath that promotion. And resilience is a great thing to have, absolutely, and it's part of mental toughness. So resilience is about being able to cope with stress and pressure when times are tough. So when times are tough, you can cope and get yourself through a situation. With mental toughness, we want to take that resilience to the next level and be able to proactively manage our mental toughness when there's challenge and stress and pressure. And then what we want to be able to do is not just cope, but thrive. So is actually seeing when people are continually saying no to the quotes that we're giving them, that this is actually an opportunity for me to grow. So if I'm trying it this way and it's not working, what should I be doing differently? Okay, so it's actually using it as an opportunity to say, well, actually, maybe that's not working very well. Maybe I need to learn something from that. Or maybe it's working really well. How can I make it even better? The other thing that people often talk about is being hardy. You know, a person is hard. They're able to, bear a lot of pressure. And look, hardiness is, once again, a great skill to have. You hear people, that have survived days in ice and snow condition. That's hardiness. That's being able to really survive. And part of mental toughness is being hardy and being able to survive against those types of odds. So why is mental toughness important? Because you mentioned to me before that those 5 things that are on the screen up there around the Dare to Dream elements are important to you. So let me explain to you a little bit about why mental toughness is important. It's a little bit hard to see this. Let me talk you through it. So I think the first thing that I mentioned earlier was around performance. So people who are mentally tough tend to outperform others by 25%. So, where we talk about, productivity in a business as being really important and then mindset being not so important, I would actually challenge that and say mindset is the most important thing you need to be focusing on because it's going to help you be a lot more productive. So what you'll find is that when people are mentally tough, they perform better. As you said before around, they will start something and continue it right through to the end. They're more employable because they tend to be higher in their well-being, so they have less sick days. They're more passionate about the organisations they work for, so they're more engaged and they're committed to what you're trying to achieve as an organisation. So what I'm trying to help you with today is not just skills that can help you, but when you talk about, being able to take the things you've learnt today and actually be a better leader, then you can actually learn these skills to be able to share with your team as well, because then you can increase the productivity of your teams and have higher retention, less sick days, and all of those positive things that any business is looking for. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of how you actually recognise mental toughness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend this time before the break talking about how to just really understand mental toughness and recognise what it is. And then after the morning tea break, we're going to go into how to build mental toughness, and I'll give you some skills around how to build it. So what do you see in these photos? Someone burnt out and someone freaking out, yeah. So this lady down the bottom here with her arms like this, what does she look, what's, if you were to explain some of the feelings that she might have, what's she feeling? Anxiety, frustration, stressed. Stephen can probably relate to this because I think this morning he was kind of looking at the laptop a little bit the same. Fortunately he controlled his emotions exceptionally well. I think what this is showing, when something happens like this with technology, it's completely out of your control. Okay, and sometimes challenges in life will come through and they're going to be completely out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. And that's when you start to feel like this lady does here, where you feel like you want to pick up the laptop and throw it out the window. Okay, so your life feels like it's out of control. You can't do anything about what this laptop is doing. What about the lady at the top? Talk to me about what she might be feeling. Exhaustion? A robot? Okay, talk to me about that. Okay, so wind me up. I just do the same old thing every day. What else? Worn out? Not excited? Yep. So mental toughness relates to what we call the 4 C's. So the first one that I'm talking to you about here is control. So you do have a workbook there. And look, I think you've got it, so it's at the back of the book there. So the first one is around control. And there's two elements of control. One is how to control your emotions, and the other is control over your life. So the way that when I look at these pictures, I see very similar to what you do. And if we think about control over your life, it's like you're a robot. You know, you turn up to work every day, you do what you have to do because someone else is telling you to do it, or you think you have to do it. It's not something you are inspired to do or motivated to do. The opposite end of the spectrum would be, I get up out of bed every morning, I'm excited, you know, I feel like every day I'm making a real difference and I'm contributing, and what I'm choosing to do in life is up to me. That's the opposite end of the spectrum. The other thing around the lady down on the left here, around these emotions, so the other thing about mental toughness is being able to have control over your emotions. So going from, you know, being able to, when this happens, to choose not to throw the laptop out the window when that's what you really want to do. I think, you know, a classic example of not being in control of an emotion is a toddler. So who in the room has had or has a toddler? Or has seen a toddler have a tantrum in their life in the shopping centre and you feel really sorry for their mother? So classic example. So with toddlers, they're so young, right? They are starting to feel all of these emotions. They're trying to speak and they don't know how to communicate themselves well enough. They're frustrated because people don't understand them. They get tired, they get angry, they get scared. They've got all of these emotions and they have a tantrum because they don't know how to actually manage that emotion. So with mental toughness, it is okay to have emotions. It's normal to be scared and sad and frustrated and angry. It's normal to have all of those emotions. What we want to make sure of is that we can have emotions. We don't want to get had by an emotion. Okay, so a toddler, when they have a tantrum, gets had by an emotion. They're not in control of that emotion anymore. What I'd love you to do for me right now is, in your book, if you turn over to a page that has control, emotions and life, I'd love you just to have a conversation at your table about maybe a time when you were feeling like life's challenges were a little bit out of your control and you weren't necessarily doing what you love doing, or you weren't feeling like you were making a difference. And I've got some ideas in there around a scale of 0 to 10. So, you know, you might have felt like, well, what happens to me is outside of my control. I'm unable to influence others. Or alternatively, you might have felt at completely the opposite end of the spectrum. So what I'd like you to do is just start on the 0 side, have a conversation at your table around when did you, you know, what was the story? What was going on there? Okay, so just take a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, how about you share some of your stories with me? You don't necessarily have to share the details, but what I'd love to hear from you is when you're in that position, or you knew someone that might have been in that position where they weren't necessarily feeling like they were in control of life or in control of their emotions, what were you noticing? So what were some of the things that you said then? What did you notice? Frustration? Sorry, what was that? Depression. Yep. What else? Under attack. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So really low energy. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is I want you to go to the opposite end of that spectrum, and you've got a +10 there on the other side where it talks about I can exert influence over my life. I can make the choices that are right for me. I'm making a difference. So what I want you to do now is think about a time in your life where you felt like you were really energized and you were motivated by what you were doing. You were in control of your emotions and your life, and you were making a difference. I want you to share that with the group again now, and then we'll do the same again. I want to hear what were you thinking or feeling or acting in that time, okay? Okay. I hate to break up the conversation because I can see there's lots of good conversation going on here. I'd love to hear what you were sharing with each other. So in that time where you felt like, you were in control of life and your emotions, what were some of the things that you were thinking or feeling? How do we explain that time? Valued. Uh-huh. Yep. Okay. It was interesting just about that energy. One of the things that I noticed then, and I know there was a good song on as well, but one of the things I noticed even from the start of the conversation, the whole energy in your group actually changed. So, when you were talking, you were all head nodding and like acknowledging each other. The energy just went up from that conversation before when you were all talking about, when your life was out of control, there was more smiles on your faces. Like, interesting, isn't it? Even when you talk about being in control of things and, making good life choices, you're happier. Did you have something you wanted to share? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, so it pushes you to keep going. Okay? Confidence. Anything else? Uh-huh. So you felt you were more inspirational or? Nice. Okay, so not just were you inspired, but you were inspiring others. Fantastic. Okay. So do you notice something here? So even just when I was trying to debrief the conversation before, it took me a while to get you to talk about these. These came really quickly, and even when I put the pen away, someone was like, they want to say something else. So, when we feel like we are in control of life's challenges and in control of our emotions, it does energize us and motivates us, and we want to keep going. It's like nothing's going to hold you back. So what I'd like you to do now is have a think about where you are on the scale of 0 to 10. Now, one thing I should say, before you start self-reflecting, in this conversation today, there's no wrong or right, okay? So whether you might be in a situation right now where you're not feeling so mentally tough, or you might be feeling really mentally tough, there's no wrong or right. What we're trying to do is simply get some awareness of where you're at right now. So, and the reason for that is there's 3 steps to change. And I mentioned to you that my role with individuals and organisations is to help them transition through change. So there's 3 steps. The first one is awareness. So I'm going to help you today just get aware of where you're at right now. So where are you really strong and where are there opportunities? It's not right or wrong, it just is. Once we get that point of awareness, then the next step in change is acceptance. So it's actually to accept, you know what, I know where I am, I know the things that I'm doing really well, and I accept that maybe I'm not leveraging my strengths as much as I could, and maybe there's some opportunities that I could be focusing on, and I can see that that is actually holding me back achieving my goals. Okay, you want to see how you can get to that point of acceptance. And then the last piece is action. And what I'll say to you is that unless you allow yourself to go through that process, you won't actually change. It was interesting. I'm training for Coast Trek at the moment, which is a 50-kilometre trek. And what I love about doing this trek is I get to train with my girlfriends and we do lots of walking together. And when I say walking, you know, we go for 6-hour walks, not just an hour and a half, right? Because it takes a long time to walk 50 kilometres, but we normally just train and do 30 Ks or something. But we get to chat a lot. You know, girls love to chat. So one of my girlfriends was sharing with me that she decided to tell her partner that he needed to lose some weight. And I said, oh, how'd that go? And she said, oh, well, he didn't take it very well, actually. I thought, okay, understandably so. And I said, so what did you do? And she said, well, I told him that he should start coming to the gym with me. Or that, you know, one of the guys at work actually goes to the gym and maybe he could join that guy at work because this couple both work at the same workplace. And anyway, he was quite resistant to any of her suggestions she was making. And what I did was I talked her through this 3-step process. And I said, look, the problem that you've got right now is that you're giving him suggestions of how he takes action. He doesn't even know that, as far as he's concerned, he's happy in his body and he doesn't know that this is actually a problem. So, because maybe it's not a problem for him, maybe it's just a problem for her. So what she realised was that she had kind of tried to tell him and give him advice, but in fact that advice was just criticism because he wasn't ready to hear it. He didn't have a level of awareness and he didn't realise that it was anything that he needed to do something about. I did say to her, look, maybe it'd work better if you just said, look, you know, I might find you more attractive in the bedroom or something. That might give him a little bit more of an impetus for change. But, you know, it was just, she'd approached it from all the wrong angle. So what I'd like you to do now is just get some awareness. And I'd like you to do this, you know, for the next couple of hours while we talk about mental toughness, and we'll have a break in between. Just get some awareness of where you're at. So if we go to the workbook where it talks about control, emotions and life, there's a scale there of 0 to 10. I want you to think about where you're at. So I'll give you an example for me. So right at this point in time, I feel like life's going really well. I feel like what I'm doing, I'm really making a difference. I'm getting some good feedback about the work that I'm doing. I feel like how I choose to spend every day is up to me. So, you know, that's a really nice feeling. From an emotions point, so I'd probably rate myself from a life control point of view, maybe an 8 on that scale. From an emotions point of view, we had a bit of a family setback last week, and I'm also feeling a bit stressed because some of my clients are now at, some of them, 90 and 120 days paying their bills. So I can see my money in my bank account going like this and my creditors going like this. So I'm like, you know, there's something going wrong here. So my stress levels have gone up. And, you know, I noticed like on the weekend something happened with my kids and I just screamed at them. And it's just, that's not like me. I don't even like yelling. It makes me feel a bit nauseous, actually. So I think from an emotions, being able to control my emotions point of view, probably about a 3 or a 4. So I want you to have a think right now, where are you at? So think about it on that life control, emotions control, and give yourself a rating. And like I said, there's no right or wrong. It just is. Okay, so it sounds like you've all had an opportunity to give yourself a bit of a rating. I'm not going to get you to share that because that's up to you. That's, you know, we're doing a bit of self-coaching here today. More than happy to give you some coaching during the breaks if you'd want to have a chat with me, but I'll leave it to you to give yourself some self-coaching. You don't need to share it unless, of course, you want to at any point in time. So let's go on to the next C now, which is about challenge. So challenge from a mental toughness point of view is whether or not you see a challenge as a problem or whether or not you see challenge as an opportunity. And there might be times in life where you see them differently depending on where you're at. In order to improve our mental toughness, what we want to be able to do is practice more seeing challenges as opportunities. So what I'd like you to do for me is, I think we might come up the front for this. We might get in 2 lines and have a bit of a speed dating session. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to have a think about when have you been faced with a challenge, or maybe someone you know was faced with a challenge. Now, have we got an uneven number or even? Are we even? Yes? Great. So think about a time when either yourself, you've been faced with a challenge, or maybe you know someone who was faced with a challenge, and when they were faced with that challenge, they focused on the problem, what the problem was, how it was all consuming them. Think about that, or it might be all consuming you. You know, I think an example for me is, as I mentioned before, unfortunately, in working in change, I've done lots of restructures over the years, and you see, obviously making people's roles redundant is a very stressful situation, depending on, what is happening in their life. One of the things I notice, though, is how people can respond very differently to them. They can either respond to that redundancy being an opportunity for them to start new, develop and learn, or they can see it as a huge problem which is all too consuming that they can't actually move past. But yet, people might be in very similar life situations. Everything around them is similar, but how they look at it makes it feel so much different. So what I want you to do is I'm just going to get you to talk to the person in front of you. 1 minute, have a conversation around that. When you've seen a challenge as a problem and how it made you think, feel or act. Okay? Okay, hopefully you got a chance to tell a bit of your story. What did you hear? What did you hear about what happens when you face a challenge as a problem? Uh-huh. It gets bigger. What else? Spiral down. It's unproductive. So you fall into a pit. And then it was barriers. Pit man. Not a nice place to be, right? That is, and it's interesting, like you notice the conversation then, it was quite low energy. It's like, oh my goodness, like this is a real problem. Okay, so this is how we do speed dating. So everyone on this line, you're going to stay where you are. Larry, you're going to come around here and everyone's going to take a step to the right on that line over there. Okay. So we're going to mix things up a little bit now. What I want you to do is talk to the person in front of you about a time where you or someone else might have had a challenge, but you treat it as an opportunity. How did you approach it differently? So how were you thinking, feeling and acting as a result of you looking at this as an opportunity? Okay, let's have a chat. So already I'm noticing the conversation then looked so much different. It sounded so much different. Like I could see lots of hand movements, lots of smiles, like more open body language. It was amazing just seeing the difference there. So how were you thinking, feeling or acting differently when you saw a challenge as an opportunity? Sorry? Vision. Okay, so you had like a vision. Got it. So you knew where you wanted to go. There might have been this challenge here, but you were focused on that. Nice. What else? Excited. Uh-huh. Which is an interesting feeling, isn't it? It's like, you can just hold on to that. It's quite a nice tension to have. What else? Determined. Uh-huh. Creative. So you're being like quite innovative and creative in your thinking. What else? I heard a lots of, and we did this, and we did that, and like there was kind of like you had multiple solutions, and you kept thinking about and resourceful. Okay, nice. Okay, talk to me about that. Uh-huh. Positively impatient. Okay, nice. So not frustrated by the impatience, but actually more energized by the impatience because, you can smell it and taste the vision that you're kind of aiming for, but you can't quite touch it. Good. Well, thank you for doing that. And so isn't it interesting, speed dating? Can you imagine if you actually were doing this to, earn your life partner or something? It's not a... Okay, have a seat. Thank you for doing that. I fortunately never had to do speed dating or online dating, but I don't envy people these days trying to find their life partner. I think it's much more challenging than what it was when I found mine. Just meet in the pub, get married, have kids, and we'll live happily ever after. So what I want you to do now is the same as what you did before. So in your workbook, you've got a scale there of 0 to 10. Have a think about where you're at. Like I said, there's no wrong way or right way. It just is. So all we're about now is getting awareness. So if this is a strength of yours, then let's tap into that. If it's an opportunity, let's recognise it. Let's move on to our next C, which is confidence. I love this quote of Henry Ford's, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And this is confidence to a T. And speaking of T's, I've got a bit of a story that I was going to share with you. So I'm coaching my daughter's T-ball team at the moment. A bunch of 12, 6 and 7-year-old girls who actually play in the baseball club, and we play against all boy teams, but they don't really realise that. They think nothing of it. So last weekend, I've got a little girl in my team. She's quite little for her age. Anyway, she has always batted well. They're a good group of batters, and she always gets on base. Sometimes she'll get run out, but she'll always have a hit and either get on or get out at first base, but the majority of the time she gets on base. Anyway, last Saturday, we got up to the first batting innings. She hit 3 foul balls, and in T-ball, unfortunately, when you hit 3 foul balls, you're out. So she was out. She was okay. She didn't seem too concerned about it. We fielded, and then we came back out for our second batting innings. She came up to bat, and she hit 3 foul balls and got out. So you can imagine, by the time we got to the third innings, and she was coming up to bat, what was she thinking? I'm going to fail. It's going to happen again. I'm thinking negative. I could see it on her face. She had just resigned herself to the fact that this had happened. So I just let it go for a moment. She hit 1 foul ball. I thought, okay, I need to get involved here. So I walked up to her and I just said, okay, first thing I want you to do is just breathe. And then I want you to remember, when you got to the game today and we were doing our warm-up, remember that you were hitting the ball off the tee and you were hitting it really hard into the net and you were doing a really good job of it. And remember last week and the week before how you hit the ball every time you came up to bat? That's what I want you to remember right now. So I walked back up to the coaching box. I turned around and looked at her and gave her a bit of a smile. And then she turned around and she whacked that ball. Now, the only thing that was different, there was no training around skills. I didn't tell her how to hold the bat because there was absolutely nothing wrong with how she was holding the bat, how she was measuring up to the tee, how she had her feet, nothing. Everything was fine. It was all up here. And the only difference was that I just reminded her that she could do it. That was all I did. I just had to take her back from where she thought she couldn't to where she knew she could. And what I love about mental toughness is it's a lot of times tapping into when you're at your best. So what was interesting about that speed dating before is all of you had a situation where you had been faced with a challenge and you'd approached it as a problem, but you all knew how to approach it as an opportunity. So we just have to remind ourselves often of when we've been at our best, and then it improves our confidence to do something. So I want you to have a look at this page now around confidence. So once again, it talks about on the 0 side of things, low confidence, consider tasks too difficult, unsettled by setbacks, maybe your head drops when things go wrong. You know, that's what I saw when she was up batting, her little head kept dropping down like, oh, I'm just waiting to get out. Or alternatively, on the other end of the scale, high confidence, self-belief. You know, you keep going, maybe hold your head high when things go wrong. So just take a moment now to reflect, where are you right now? So whether it's your personal life or your work life, where are you feeling from a level of confidence? You know, you mentioned over here around, I've submitted quotes and I keep getting pushbacks. That can have an impact on your level of confidence. So if it is that you've taken a bit of a confidence hit, that's fine. We're going to talk about some strategies later that it's going to help you to build that confidence. Okay, but just think about, where are you right now? Okay, so we're going to move on to the last C now before the break. And the last C is commitment. So you mentioned earlier around, why is mental toughness important? Because sometimes, we can start on something and then not come through with the goods at the end. Or we get a bit, we get worn out. So I wanted to show you a video now of someone who was working towards a goal and demonstrated a real level of commitment to achieving that goal.
Can you walk? Standing and walking.
So what did you notice about that baby's level of commitment? Persistent. Unreal. It is, isn't it? It's really unreal. And it just shows you that, who here learnt how to walk? Everyone, right? We've all got this within us. We have all got it in us to fall down, get back up again, have a head plant, get back down, get up again. What else did you notice? Exactly. I know some of her costumes are pretty out there, weren't they? I also thought it was really cute. Did you see the older sister? How she came up and went bang. It's like, you know what? Even when people are going to knock you down, you can get back up again. What else did you notice? She wasn't she? She was so proud of herself. Like those little baby steps helped her all the way along. If she could do like a couple of steps, she was so proud of herself all the way along. And I think, that's what happens with commitment, is that you need to reward yourself and be proud of yourself. So there was a comment up there around, someone said they felt proud before. It wasn't on that flip chart, it was on the other one. So, part of being committed is actually stopping and smelling the roses, stopping and rewarding yourself. I know that Stephen has for you, as part of boot camp, you do like a 12-week plan or a 90-day plan after boot camp. And I do lots of coaching, and one of the things I often use with people are 90-day plans. Now, 90-day plans are exceptional because you give yourself, you kind of break down your long goals into short tasks. what I would say to you is that we've got to also then break it down into baby steps. And I think you've got a ninja planner or something in your workbook, which is like breaking down those tasks into baby steps. Because what we want to know is, what are the things I'm going to do this week? They're going to keep me committed to that 90-day plan. What am I going to do next week? What are my team doing to deliver on that 90-day plan? Just last year, I trained for a half marathon, and only a number of years before that, I couldn't run further than 500 metres. And I just kept kind of doing runs where I'd be like 4Ks, 7Ks, different events. And then someone said to me, oh, you should do a half marathon. I'm like, yeah, sure I will, no worries. I'd put my hand up before I'd actually even thought about the concept of running for 2.5 hours. So clearly didn't think that through when I decided to say that I was going to do it. And I'm the type of person, once I say I'm going to do something, I then go, okay, well, I'll have to work out how I can. So what I did was I just broke it down. Went, okay, well, if I need to run 21 Ks, really I just need to run 3 7K runs. And I've done a 7K. So if I can do 7 Ks and I can just do 3 of them, then I can run 21. So that's how I trained for it. I just broke it down into small chunks. And when it comes to commitment, that's what we want to do. We just want to be able to break down any kind of bigger task into smaller chunks and give ourselves rewards along the way. Okay, so that, and for me, when I was in the half marathon, I'd give myself a goo, which would give me a big boost of energy as I was running along. Do you know what goos are? Full of sugar and caffeine. They're like really bad for you. So what I'd like you to do is just, once again, go to your book and have a think about where you're at right now. It's the last of the 4 C's around commitment. So, do you lose interest or do you stay motivated? Do you procrastinate or are you energised and you get in and you tackle a task? So we've been through the 4 C's of mental toughness. You know what mental toughness is and how it can contribute to your own inner power. You know why it's important. You told me, and then I kind of gave you a few more ideas on why it's important. And now we know how to recognise it, and you know where you're at on each of those 4 C's. We know what are your strengths and what are your opportunity areas. So we're at a point of awareness right now. Between now and after the break, what I'd love you to do is kind of transfer through this level of acceptance and go, yeah, you know what? I reckon I could learn something from this, and I reckon there's probably 1 or 2 things that I can take out of this, that it's going to help me to achieve my goals regardless of the challenges I go through. So after the break, I'm going to take you through lots of ideas on how to actually build your mental toughness, and you can relate them specifically to those 4 areas. So I'm going to hand back to Stephen.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Katrina. A bit of a round of applause.